has been faced by our community and by homeowners all across the nation. The difference, I think, as a result of this 101 pages, and the reason that it's 101 pages, is that this is a comprehensive, a detailed, broadly based, and extensively researched response to this challenge that we've had since the advent of the destruction of the economy by forces that were interested only in self-aggrandizement, the expression of greed at its worst, and complete indifference to the well-being of the people, the customers ostensibly served by the mortgages that were instituted, ostensibly on behalf of both parties. So the credit for this today is, in fact, a reflection of what we try to be in Hawaii, which is good neighbors and good friends to one another. There's a lot of legislative mothers and fathers to this bill here today, no question about that. And I'm glad that some of them are here. There are also community members that are here as well, including our friends from the Faith Action Community group, the FACE group, that I've had the opportunity to work with in other contexts and circumstances, all of which I think are made manifest in this bill in terms of the reasons for the commitment. The state judiciary has been working cooperatively here. We may have separate branches of government, but we are all co-equal in our commitment to one another here in Hawaii. And of course, the DCCA, the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, Kaylee Lopez. There is not a day, Kaylee, when I don't congratulate myself on picking you to be the head of the DCCA. I have a lot of failings. Knowing that you would be absolutely marvelous in this position was not one of them. Everybody has turned to, I know legislators have said to me again and again that the DCCA has been instrumental in being helpful at every turn here. It's a good example of what collaboration can do. And of course, those of you who are here representing the consumers of this 101 page bill, the literal consumers, those for whom the central focus of their life has been the mortgage. There isn't anybody here, starting with yours truly, that doesn't understand the power and gravity of what that means. It's an emotional thing. My wife and I have a picture of us both weeping on the day that we got our mortgage, and we got through the escrow and everything else, and we knew that the 23 years that it took us to save for the down payment on our house. 23 years. We were in an apartment. The Chung family took us in 23 years before that happy day on a handshake. It's still possible in Hawaii to do it on a handshake. Our rental agreement was a handshake, and it was good for 23 years until we had the chance, as I say, to get our down payment on that mortgage. So this is and the reason that we're moving so swiftly on this is that for everyone who is in the position of needing to go to the circumstances that are allowed in here, it's all laid out. In fact, what is it, page 62, I think I saw with when the notice comes. Is that right, Kaylee? Didn't I ask you about that? I think it's around there. Well, I thought I had it down. The actual notice. Yeah, here it is. The 72. Notice of default and intention to foreclose. I see Hercules is shaking his head. Shall also contain wording substantially similar to the following. I guess it better be, in as much as it's all in capital letters. And printed in not less than 14 font point, or a 14-point font right now is what it is. So this is a detailed bill. There's no getting around that. So I'm delighted to be able to do it. It is comprehensive. It's a real strategy for dealing with this, and I want to compliment everybody. The principal features, for those who may not be familiar with it, I think everybody here in the seated is probably, the mortgage Foreclosure Dispute Resolution Program. That's what it's gonna be called. Within the DCCA and assistance by the judiciary. The fact is, owner occupants in non-judicial foreclosures, that's the main thing that's operating here. We want to try and avoid, if we can, to put the consumer, the homeowner, in a position where they feel the entire institutional establishment is lined up against them. Quite the opposite. We're trying to move from the bottom up here, from the consumer up, from the homeowner up. It's self-funded by fees collected by the parties involved, and dispute resolution, as Kaylee indicated, dispute resolution is the key to this. It's obviously less costly than litigation. We're trying to avoid that. I think that the legislature's been excellent in working to that end. It implements the recommendations of the Mortgage Foreclosure Task Force created by last year's legislator. Pace and others have been particularly pertinent in moving that forward. They can convert their non-judicial foreclosures to a judicial foreclosure if that seems to be, or the conclusion is reached that that has to go, so that's not precluded. It places a moratorium on future non-judicial foreclosures as soon as I sign this bill, so I'm sure everybody is saying, please stop and sign the bill. That's why we're all here today. So I think I've thanked everybody. I have a series of talking points here. If the media would like me to recite them in order afterwards, I can read from them in my best David Letterman approach. But I think that you can see from the summary that's been put out by BCCA. I think this is yours, right, Kaylee? This says it accurately. It says it succinctly. I think it's an excellent summary and an excellent guide. Therefore, at this time, let's see. Do I do that? I don't want to do this by myself. In fact, I'd like to ask, can I ask a couple of perhaps representatives? I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but can I ask maybe Roz and Bob to represent everybody? Would that be okay if we do that? Why don't you two come up, and if you have something to say on this, I should never say that when you're around, but you should. On this, at this particular time, and then I'm going to ask someone from FACE to come up while I do the signing, someone from the judiciary, and Kaylee, someone, maybe perhaps yourself. Who could represent the judiciary today? Who can I have represent? I'm going to have Brian, you represent the judiciary. Okay? And they had their chance. And, so we'll do that. But first, before we do that, before I do the signing, I'd like to ask Roz and then Bob Herkes to perhaps give a summary of how the bill got here today.
Thank you, Governor. This is really one of those wonderful ways that legislation ought to be crafted. It was very collaborative. Chair Herkes and I and our staffs worked very closely together. We got lots of input from folks like FACE, Faith Action for Community Equity. We had wonderful help from Kaylee and from Everett at DCCA, as well as Rod Miley and the Chief Justice. And we, of course, had the backup from all of our staff, but the thing for us, I think, that was most important, Chair Herkes and I agreed at the very beginning of this process that we wanted the best pro-consumer bill we could possibly pass. One that was going to help our distressed homeowners, give a timeout, give some order and some opportunity for a face-to-face discussion. And then if it didn't work out, if the foreclosure ended up being the best opportunity and they were in a non-judicial foreclosure, they could start fresh because they wouldn't have a deficiency judgment hanging over their heads. I'm very proud of this legislation. From everything I can tell, and I think Chair Herkes has received these kinds of phone calls as well, this may well be landmark legislation, something that other states can emulate, because it is very progressive, very comprehensive foreclosure reform. And I just want to thank Steve Levins and the staff, the other staff at DCCA, for their help in crafting this and really helping guide some of the principles that ended up in the legislation. Thank you so much, Governor.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Robert?
Governor, thank you so much for expediting the signature of this. Governor, in all the years I've been here, I've never worked on something this hard and as difficult as this bill, and it impacts so many, many people in the state of Hawaii. I've heard from all over the